I'm Esther Dillard on the Black Information Network, chatting with writers and authors who offer an added perspective for our listeners. This is Color Between the Lines. On this edition of Color Between the Lines, we're speaking with Maya Moore Irons and Jonathan Irons. They're sharing their memoir, Love and Justice, a story of triumph on two different courts. Maya Moore Irons is a four-time WNBA champion, six-time WNBA All-Star, Olympic gold medalist, and has won more games than any player in college basketball history. This story shares how she stepped away from her career to help right an injustice. You see, Jonathan was wrongfully convicted and thrown into jail at 16 years old. And the book lays out how, after 23 years, Jonathan was released. Eventually, that friendship blossomed into love, marriage, and a brand new family. Thank you, Maya and Jonathan Irons, for joining me on the BIN.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, glad to be here.
Oh, great. I wanted each of you to answer this, and I guess I'll start with Jonathan. Did writing this book unearth some really deep emotional things for you? It was a tough read for me. And what were they, I guess?
And I think I laughed out loud. I cried out loud. I threw a bottle at the wall in rage, thinking about something that happened inside. I had to go to counseling. I had to stop. I had to put the brakes on it in the beginning and just like, this is coming at me too fast. And I went to my counselor and we talked through some things. I got to a place where I could realize like, hey, I'm free. And I got to remind myself that, and I got to reach out and touch Maya and just realize like she's here. This is real. I had to keep reminding myself of that because it was hard. Memories that I had forgotten about, stuff came up. I started being asked questions about the past, and it was just hard reliving it. Very, very hard.
How about you, Maya? Was it tough?
It was tough, but it was also inspiring because we did this over so many years, this battle, this journey towards fighting for Jonathan's freedom. And it made me appreciate the love of my godparents, of my great uncle, who started this connection that our family has with Jonathan, and the perseverance of Jonathan, and people doing the right thing at just the right time to make sure Jonathan got the freedom he deserved. And I'm just grateful that we were able to put it all together so that other people can share in it and see it, and hopefully encourage us as a nation to make sure something like this doesn't happen again, because it doesn't have to.
Can you explain how you both met?
Yeah, so Jonathan was wrongfully convicted and was a year or so into his terrible journey in prison when he met my great uncle. So my great uncle had been volunteering in prison ministry for years and years and years, and he 30 plus years, and he met Jonathan, and through this choir program that my great uncle was leading, and saw something in Jonathan, really challenged him to be a leader, and just essentially became like a father to Jonathan. And so when my great uncle learned more about Jonathan, he learned about the facts of his case and how he was wrongfully convicted. And he saw those facts and he shared it with his daughter, who was my godmom, and her husband. And so they started to get interested in Jonathan's life and wanting to help in any way that they could. And so a few years into that, I met Jonathan because I was spending time with my godparents, and that was the start of a friendship that was unexpected, but we became friends and just continued over the years to get to know each other, to support each other. We got to see each other's character and just persevere through challenges. And about 6 years into our friendship, we started to become more honest about the fact that there's love here. There's something more. And how do we do this? How do we have a love story in this crazy context? But we did, and we just leaned into each other, and just to continue to try to figure out what is it going to take to help bring him home. In the meantime, Jonathan had been teaching himself law, and so he got so good at law that he was able to actually draft the petition that ended up exonerating him in 2020. And I also ended up using my voice and my platform to shine a light on his case and the general cause for prosecutorial reform and criminal justice reform. And we're sitting here today on the other side of that really nightmare.
Right. Well, Jonathan, I know reading you were convicted for 50 years in prison for burglary and assault. And although you had a team of people working relentlessly on your release and had proof that you were innocent, was it really difficult to keep hopeful for that long that you were inside, I believe 23 years?
Yeah, I was inside 23 and a half, and yeah, absolutely, it was difficult. Like I had some good friends on the inside that encouraged me and just would say, man, you made it this far, keep going, man. We're living vicariously through you. Keep going, don't give up, and like just the love of the people that surrounded me has just kept me going in that dark time, because I was right there. And then the attorney general from Missouri, Eric Schmidt, through his assistant attorney general Patrick Logan, I sat there an extra 6 months because of the games that they were playing. Like it was very, very frustrating and heartbreaking. I remember that for 2 weeks after my case was overturned on March 9th, I did not sleep. I was just up and just anxious and ready, but I didn't go home.
For those who are just joining us, I'm Esther Dillard speaking with Maya Moore Irons and Jonathan Irons about their memoir, Love and Justice, a story of triumph on two different courts. It's a love story between a couple that fights against the penal system for justice. Well, Maya, my understanding is you were on a rocket ride to the top in college. You had several scholarships and awards. What was that like when you decided to step away from the game to focus on helping Jonathan? And what was the reaction from your family?
Yes, it was an unexpected path, but as the last few years of my career were happening, I was starting to sense a shift of feeling like my presence needs to shift from running 100% in this pro lane to shifting more to be rooted at home, to have more of a restful rhythm, a more connected rhythm with my community, and also to create space for Jonathan and everything that was going to be involved in helping to bring him home and, Lord willing, start a life together. And so I shifted that focus and that presence to the home front, and my people that I walk with and know me had been involved in this journey and knew my heart, knew Jonathan, and supported that, and saw the life and the positive things that I was trying to lean into, and they supported it. But at the same time, it was shocking, because when you are so invested in the pro space, it's really hard to get out of that, because it's such a magnetic space to be in. But it was a good and healthy shift that I needed, and it provided the preparation for what was to come.
And I can't let the fact go that you just recently announced your retirement from the game officially on MLK Junior Day this year. What was that like?
Yes, it was good to finally bring clarity to everyone that chapter of my life is closed. We can really look back and celebrate and be grateful, but I do have clarity, and the timing of making that official, I feel like, is perfect right now, as we're sharing our story. And the book gives some more detail about what that journey was like for me leading up to retirement. But I'm just grateful. I have a lot of gratitude in my heart thinking about retiring and all the great people I got to play with.
I cannot go past this point where I have to ask you about the release that day. It was very emotional for both of you. It was caught on videotape. What was that like for each of you?
Man, when he walked out of those doors, it was almost like a dream, because we had been dreaming about this day for so long, but it just been delay after delay after delay because of the state of Missouri. Like Jonathan was explaining earlier, of how they were just doing reckless appeal after reckless appeal, to the point where the appellate court and the Supreme Court of Missouri basically wrote in-depth responses to the state of Missouri saying, essentially, stop it. This is irresponsible. Let this man go. And when they did let him go, we all just shouted in victory and just hooting and hollering. Like, it was just beautiful. Like, all these people that had been supporting Jonathan were there and got to embrace him as he walked out. And I dropped to my knees and I was crying. I was in shock. I was on cloud nine, to say the least.
Jonathan, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I know. I was. This is a joke, but seriously, I said, my goodness, I finally get to marry my wife, Maya Moore. She did all of that. And I felt so good, so relieved, and it just, like, prison has a way of like draining you and making you feel like you do have the weight of the world on your shoulders. And I felt like that was removed when I walked out those prison doors, into the arms of my family, who loved me and encouraged me and was behind me all those years. And I was ready to be on the first thing smoking away from there. Like, let's get me away from here. Let's go.
Well, I don't want to leave without you giving me, what is your overall message that you'd like readers to come away with? I know you were talking about some changes that you'd like to see within the system.
Some of the things I'd like to see is I'd like there to be more real, meaningful conviction integrity units, which kind of offers a better check and balance system to the way prosecutors function. Right now, they're the most powerful member in the courtroom. They have immunity. They can basically get away with knowingly using false testimony in a trial to convict someone. That should not happen. There are interrogations that need to be recorded. All the procedures relating to identification, eyewitness identification, it needs to be followed. There needs to be a more robust inspection of those, and some form of enforcement to make sure that they happen. And public defenders, like that is a very hard and difficult job. Like, prosecutors have the benefit of having the police department and detectives and investigators that have a lifetime of doing it, where public defenders are overworked and don't have enough resources, and they have to go out and get money to hire an investigator to do the work that they can't even compete up with the police department and what they do. Like, in order for the system to properly work, we need to have more balance. And hopefully we'll be able to talk about our story and share it with people where it generates a conversation around those criminal justice reforms, as well as prison reform, because prison is a very hard place, and it seems to be overrun with patients that need mental health therapy, but they're not getting it. They're just housed within prison, and prison has become probably one of the most dangerous places on earth, and it should not be that way.
You know,
Jonathan's talking about
go ahead.
Some of these systematic things, but we also want to talk about the heartbeat behind these systematic changes of get to know somebody that doesn't look just like you. Mm-hmm. Be present in your community.
Yes.
Have and cultivate relationships, because when we have and cultivate relationships, it's much harder to wrongfully convict somebody. And the perspective of restorative justice in our courtrooms and in our communities will do wonders. And then we don't spend people's time and money trying to undo these things because they don't happen in the first place.
That's right.
Well, I would love to continue this conversation in a different forum on a different day, to be able to kind of flesh out some more of the things that you'd like to say to the Black community, especially when it comes to justice in the penal system. But I'm so happy that both of you were able to share as much as you have with me. Thank you so much, Maya Moore Irons and Jonathan Irons, for joining us on the BIN.
I would like to say this to the Black community before you leave. I just want to say this. I would just encourage Black people to just take account. We are not where we used to be. We may not be where we want to be, but we're here and we have made progress, and we can continue to thrive. If we made it through what we made through in the past, we can keep going now.
That's so wonderful message. And the book is Love and Justice, a story of triumph on two different courts, and it's available for purchase today. I'm Esther Dillard on the Black Information Network.